This is The Law Show on CL 650. Now back to the show.
And marriage, love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. This I
What's the opposite of that song? Love and marriage don't go together like a horse and carriage.
Well, the irony is, of course, Frank Sinatra, wasn't he married like 4 or 5 times?
Yeah, I think so. So we're talking about getting divorced, and we're speaking with lawyers in the family law department at Macquarie Hunter, David Halkett and Sarah Morris. Now, we've talked about what happens in people coming into your office. And David, you mentioned a client that came in and he was told this is what you're going to be paying for spousal and child support. So is there a calculation that you can do going in?
There is, yeah. The child support's based on federal child support guidelines, which were adopted in the province as well. And they're called guidelines, but as one judge has referred to them, they're basically must lines. And if you earn this amount of money, you have this many children, this is what you pay.
And does that get updated every few years?
Yeah, it came in 97, and it's been updated, I think, twice. Mm-hmm. So in 06 and 2011. So we're probably due for a new one that'll update the amounts that you pay. It varies by province as well. So it's based on where the payor resides.
And where the children reside, or
no? That's where the claim usually is made, but the amounts paid are based on where you live. Mm-hmm. Taxes are different, tax rates, etc. Now there are some factors that play into what the amount is, and even though the guideline says if you earn $120,000, you pay, we'll just say $1,500, depending on the number of children, it does factor in as to whether or not you have the children more than 40% of the time.
So if you have the children longer, your amount goes down.
If it's over 40.
Right.
Sarah's kind of the guru on child support because she did that for years for the provincial government. But basically, if there's a shared situation, meaning that both parents have the children 40% of the time at least, there is a possibility to go off the guideline amount and come up with a kind of a set-off amount. But there's a lot of other factors that play into that.
And Sarah, how many parents decide this amount without going to court? Are they pretty reasonable, or are people entrenched in their views?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because most of the people that are coming to see us haven't sorted it out.
Right.
So typically, if people are able to, agree and actually get the child support paid, they're probably able to deal with other things amicably as well. So we wouldn't tend to see those individuals.
Now, and what about women who are now being told they have to pay support? Is that a shock?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a case where a female had to pay spousal support to a
once. You had one client.
Once, yes, permanently disabled spouse in a long-term marriage. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for women to understand that if you're the higher breadwinner and you're sharing the children equally, you may well as be on the hook for child support or spousal support.
Is it still the man that pays more often typically?
Usually, yes, because usually still men earn more. And often it can also factor in that even if the mom earns more money, the children may be with her more of the time, mm-hmm. so therefore the dad would still pay. Mm. We do have a lot more, of course, professional women coming in that earn more income. But at the same time, they often, even when they do have professional designation, they may work part-time to take care of the children.
Sure.
Whereas men don't tend to work part-time to take care of the children. At least in my practice, it's changing a little, but I haven't had that many women that have had to pay child maintenance. Mm-hmm. And usually when you tell the moms they have to, most of their friends don't pay, so it's more of a, well, you earn more money and you have to assuage it a bit because I think just historically they figure they'll be receiving the child maintenance.
Yeah, and you're right. Often when you have two professionals working, the person that's going to take some time away from work will be the mom in those early years especially, while the dad continues to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that hasn't changed.
No, and it's especially in our profession, it's difficult when you are the mom, and because you're always the one called away usually to take care of the children.
And when they're sick.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're the one that calls in and says it won't be in.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how long do you have to pay child support?
Well, definitely until the children are 19.
Well, if you're a parent, it never ends. But,
exactly. Yes,
but
yes.
I mean, in the eyes of the law.
Yeah. Until they're the age of majority, and that varies by province. In BC, it's 19.
Okay.
So guaranteed you have to pay that unless they're under 19, they've moved out of the home, not to go to school, gotten married, etc., like that. So up till 19. After 19, it depends on if the child is disabled physically, mentally, and cannot earn an income, or if they are unable to meet their basic needs or take care of themselves for other cause, which usually is going to school full time, post-secondary.
Yeah, recognized post-secondary, and they have to be typically full time.
Yeah, full time is a nebulous term in that it
3 or 4 courses.
Yeah, one school will say 3, one will say 4. Really, to me, it's whether or not someone could work a full-time job and go to school at the same time.
Right. So wouldn't that relationship be between the parent and the child at that point when they're over 19 and going to university? Or does it still need to go through the spouse to pay them?
It varies.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when child support can go directly to the child, but that's not.
Yeah, that's usually if the child is away at school and isn't living at home, because the theory behind child maintenance is that a home is being provided for the child, so a roof over the child's head, food, clothing, etc. And so they still have the need for that when they're in school, because someone has to put a roof over their head. Okay,
let's flip it to the spouse. If you get divorced, and how long do you have to keep paying your ex?
Well, that again is it's interesting, because it's going to seem like we're always saying it depends. Well, it again, and this is another one, it depends. Usually, the shorter the relationship, the less time you pay spousal. We have spousal support advisory guidelines. Now, these really are guidelines. They give a low, a mid, and a high range, and it depends on a number of factors, whether there's child support being paid and etc. But you run the numbers into the computer program that we have, and it will tell us what the ranges are. And it's based usually on, if there's no children, 1.5% to 2% of the difference in income for 6 months to a year of the relationship. And that includes the common law time. So if you're married for 1 year but live together for 9, it's considered a 10-year relationship.
And you get half of that, is what you're saying?
Potentially, you can get it between 5 and 10 years. The kicker is if the length of the relationship and the age of the recipient equals 65, then it's indefinite maintenance.
Really?
Yeah.
So those are hard conversations to have.
They are. And it's difficult. And usually the case law is kind of clear on an indefinite. It's usually you're going to have to pay at least for what one of the ranges would have been. So the low end of 5, half the relationship.
Now, I've heard stories where somebody's in a new relationship, but they hold off getting married again because that would stop their support. Is that true?
Again, it depends if it's the nature of the entitlement, if it's compensatory or non-compensatory. That's going to factor in, because remarriage in and of itself, or repartnering, doesn't necessarily mean spousal support will stop. Marriage may or may not, but it depends on, are they getting that spousal support needs-based or based on being compensated for staying home, looking after the kids. In that case, repartnering may not impact that at all.
So if mom was out of the workforce for 15 years looking after the kids, that needs to be paid.
Yeah, that's what they call compensatory maintenance, or you're compensating her for the loss. So the loss of promotion, loss of pension that she may have had, needs retraining, etc. So you have to compensate that, and maintenance is supposed to be paid until that compensation has been met. So repartnering and that doesn't end it. As Sarah said, if it's needs-based, so that it was just simply that my income was lower, now I have a new partner, then it's likely that could end on a new relationship, either married or common law.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to get into special or extraordinary expenses when we continue our conversation about family law next on CL 650.
More of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.